Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are tuning in from. I pray all is well. Listen, y'all, I feel called to get up here and tell my testimony of my faith walk when I've started really trusting all the way in God and um, having faith, right? And so he has been tugging on me to tell this testimony and tell this story. So here I am, okay? And so this video is going to be titled When God Told Me to Move, okay? This is not like a regular video, y'all. It will be a little bit lengthy because I want to make sure that I'm hitting all the spots. But yeah, God had informed me to definitely go ahead and tell my testimony. So here I am. Okay. So it started back in, I want to say, 2013. One of my best friends passed away when she was 25 years old. She had an asthma attack. So thank God that, oh, here am I. Thank God it wasn't any, killings or anything of that nature. It was definitely tragic no matter what, but God needed her more than us, right? But anyways, at that time, that was back in 2012. So God had been speaking to me, just telling me that it was time for me to move, right? Now, a little backstory, y'all. I've been feeling called since I was a little girl, like literally about 19 years old. I didn't know what a calling was. I wasn't really in tune with God like that. So I knew God, but I didn't I knew of God, but I didn't know God, if that makes sense. I wasn't walking with Jesus. So that's two different things. So catch that, right? But at this particular moment, I felt God so strongly to where he, was telling me that my time have expired. Now, just to kind of give y'all a backstory on that as well, I still wasn't walking with God at that time. This was 2013. I didn't start my journey with walking with God until 2016. And so, although that, I felt called all of those years, the world had me, right? And so, but I did feel him at that moment. However, um, nothing happened. Nothing happened. I was a person to where I had a big heart. I always wanted to, I always wanted my family to come with me. I always wanted the best for us all. I never wanted to leave my family, to be honest, if I'm honest, right? So I wanted them to come. So years and years, I brought it to their attention, and I'm like, listen, y'all, I think that it's time for us to it's time for us to go. I'm the older sister of four. I have three other siblings, sisters, and I always felt like, they were a part of my responsibility in a way, right? But yeah, so I say that to say, I wanted my sisters to come with me. I wanted my mama to come with me. I just wanted my people with me. I didn't feel the need to move by myself, right? However, God had other plans. But anyways, up in that moment, I was really wanting them to come. So, we had conversations about it or what have you, and I'm like, y'all, I'm serious. I really want to go. But and then they were saying that they were wanting to go as well. But of course, years passed, and God spoke to me again after, I was partying and I was back in the streets and I'm getting drunk every day, getting high every day, all of the above. And um God called me again, and it was pretty much that he was saying, like, listen, did you forget what I told you? You know what I'm saying? Like, did you forget? And at this time, y'all, it was, I want to say, 2015, 16. So years had passed since my best friend had passed away. And of course, we've seen a lot of things that happened up in that time. But he reminded me that he told me to move, because the moving had went out of my head. Child, I ain't gonna even lie. It went out of my head. I'm like, look, my family don't want to move. They ain't making no moves. I'm not moving by myself. That's just that, right? So it was what it was. However, he reminded me. He reminded me, like, listen, this is what I told you to do. And I'm like, okay, God, but how? How am I going to do this? What are you wanting me to do? And so, as the time went on, I finally gave God my yes. Gave God my yes. Now, at this time in my life, I was traveling, I was experiencing the world, I was seeing different things, I was getting exposed to different things or what have you. This was my time of travel. So it was around 2015, 16, somewhere around there. And I can remember one day I was just like, I am tired of partying. I am tired of going out. I am tired of living the same lifestyle, right? Because I used to literally party all day, every day. And that was just my lifestyle. We just partied, right? So, but I knew deep down inside of me that there was something that was more. I always had a more inside of me. So I didn't know what that more was. I just knew that God didn't place us here to, pay bills, go party, have fun, and then die. I knew that there was purpose inside of me. But and two, I was always a prayer. Even though that I wasn't walking with Jesus, I will still pray. I will still pray and, ask God to guide my way, ask him to lead me or what have you, right? So I said that to say, because my life didn't reflect me walking with Jesus, Jesus has always been covering me and always been guiding me on the strength that I still acknowledged him. I still never gave up on him and he never gave up on me, right? It just wasn't my time yet. But anyways, as I continue to pray, it was almost as if like he took the desires away. So like I said, I woke up one day and I was just feeling like, look, I I don't want to smoke weed anymore. I don't want to drink anymore. I just don't. I don't want to party. I didn't want to do any of it. And so that was really strange to me, but hey, it was what it was, right? I'm like, maybe I'm growing up, maybe, I'm just feeling a little bit different. But anyways, so that was 2016. So at that moment, I had traveled to Arizona. And when God told me to move, he just told me to move. He didn't give me no specifics. He didn't give me no, no dates, no nothing. He just was like that I needed to move. And remind y'all, these is years later in which he first told me to move. That was 2013. We're now in 2016. So that was years down the line. But I went to Arizona and I was on a vacation. And I'm like, okay, Arizona, that's going to be the place. Like, that's where God told me to move, right? It was beautiful. I loved it. The only thing about it is that it didn't feel homey. It didn't feel like it was home, right? But I did love it. I did want to move there because me in my head, I'm like, listen, I have to be obedient to God and really go ahead and move. And I just feel like since I was in Arizona, then it was Arizona, right? So I'm like, but this don't feel like home, but look, it is what it is. So I went ahead and I packed up my whole house because at this time, I had been speaking with my family and I was telling them like, look, I'm ready to move. I gotta go. Whatever the case, like I was getting rejected from a lot of family and friends because at this time I had also gotten closer with God on the strength that, I was feeling his presence. I was feeling him calling me. I was feeling, the desires of my flesh leave. I was just feeling him so strongly. So I wanted more of that. And I, got in my Bible more. I started praying more or whatever. But this is when I gave God my yes. Okay. And so when I went to Arizona, and when I came back home, I ended up packing my whole house up, and I was telling my family and friends, like, listen, I'm gone. And it was really, really easy at that moment on the strength that, You know, I had been getting rejected from family and friends at that time. So a lot had happened within those years. I'm not going to even discuss all of that, but I was, you know, I was in a place where I was getting rejected. So it was like an easy move for me. But so I packed up my house, and I just had like little stuff there or whatever at that moment. And that was that. So I picked up my house and boom. So at that moment, it was like there was no formation in how I was going to move. I'm just like, how am I going to do that? This, what am I going to do? Like, what's going on, right? So, I had to be real with myself and like, okay, this is not working out. Like, you know, months had passed and I'm like, still here or whatever. I didn't have no plan to go. I didn't have nothing in place, right? So boom, that was that. Now, fast forward. Fast forward, I went ahead and I unpacked my house or whatever, and then I end up going on another vacation. I live in my best life, right? And I went to Texas. And in in Texas, I had went on a vacation with a travel club that I was in, and my sister and one of my close friends was with me. And I can remember telling them, I'm like, there was this feeling, and the feeling was so strongly to where I felt like Texas was my home. And I felt like that I was at home. And I'm like, what, where did that feeling come from? Because at this point, I had given up. Like, I'm like, okay, well, God didn't give me no how tools to do this. So I can't just get up and leave. So that's why I had unpacked my house. But when I went to Texas, I'm like, hold on, like, this feel like home. So, I told my friend and my sister, I was like, y'all, I'm moving here. And they kind of chuckled and kind of laughed and was like, you moving here? Like, girl, where did that come from? Whatever. But and before I know it, that came in my spirit, and I'm like, moving here? Like, Santana, what you talking about? Because when they said it, I'm saying it too. But I'm like, this felt like home. And so it resonated in my spirit, like, oh, okay. So long story short, I end up telling one of my homegirls had moved here. I want to say like 8-9 years prior to when I moved, but she was from my hometown and she had been here already, and so I end up telling her, I'm like, listen, I'm moving here or whatever. I'm like, this feel like home, and what I didn't tell people like God told me to move or whatever. I'm just like, I'm moving here, right? So so she was like, for real? And I'm like, yeah, girl, I'm finna move or whatever. It was almost as if I was speaking it to existence myself. And then she was like, well, if you for real, I'm about to buy a house. I'm building the house or whatever. In a couple months I'll be gone and I'll be living up in my new house, and you can take over my apartment. I'm like, what? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. So on that trip, y'all, remind y'all, I was on a vacation and all of this was taking place right here. So remember when I said that I didn't have any how-tos with Arizona, but with Texas, right there on that trip, I was already getting some resources that was being implemented. So I'm like, okay. And so her and I had talked, and whatever, we got some stuff established, and boom, that was that. So I went back home. And now this time I'm excited because I'm like, I got somewhere to stay. That was my most important thing, like for me and my kids to have somewhere to stay. I'm like, I got somewhere to stay. Boom. And then so I just started putting action, and I told my family I was moving again, the ones that was back home or whatever. And of course they didn't believe me at this time because I had already packed up my house before and unpacked, right? So they didn't believe me. They like, girl, please sit down somewhere, okay? But But yeah, so I told him or whatever, and then I just started putting in action, y'all. I literally end up speaking to her. We talked about, boom, boom, boom. She was kind of wary because she was like, people always say they're gonna move and never move, and so she doesn't help people out or whatever. I know what the feeling feel like now, that I have already moved to. But I'm like, listen, girl, I'm serious or whatever. I'm ready to move. Now, still I hadn't told nobody what me and God talked about, because at that moment it's not nobody's business to know, right? But and then my walk with God wasn't as strong. So of course people probably would looked at me like, girl, what? God told you what? Or whatever. So I didn't want to get all up into that. But anyways, so, I end up giving my job and my house a 30-day notice. Now, up in this 30 days, now I went there in, I want to say the beginning, I probably like springtime-ish. I don't remember the month, but I first went on a vacation in like spring. So, some months had passed, and then in June, probably like the end of May, I end up giving my house and my job a notice. Now, another good thing that kind of aligned with everything is that my job transferred. If you have been there over a year, you were able to transfer to a new state. My job was in Texas. So I'm like, okay. So everything was just lining up, y'all. So it was just so divine, to where it was boom, 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 boom. And so, so I was thinking that it was Arizona, but of course God had other plans. And as y'all noticed, with the Arizona, it was like nothing was adding up. Like the math wasn't mathing. Okay, I didn't know what was going to take place, how I was going to get there, what was going on. Like I didn't have any resources, no house, no nothing. So that was way different from Texas, because when I went to Texas, like I said, everything just started lining up. Like I was getting resources, I was getting confirmations, and it was just like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, okay, guys. So of course I was praying with those, and within those months I was talking to God, and it was almost as if He gave me the confirmation, like this is where. Now remind y'all, God didn't give me a where to. So this is notes that needs to be taken. He didn't tell me, you need to move and you need to go to Texas. He didn't tell me that. He just told me that I needed to move, and it was time for me to get away from everything that I knew, because He needed me. He didn't tell me anything else. I didn't have the how to. I didn't know how it was going to work out. I didn't know, but I trusted and believed God, because He spoke a word, okay? When God's speaking, He says something, it has to come to pass. So I knew that it was coming to pass. I didn't know when. He didn't say when. Remind y'all, you remember I said that was back in 2013. We're now in 2006. We were then in 2016 when I went to, what was that? Arizona. And then we were in 2017 when I ended up going to Texas. And so this was years down the line when God finally was like, boom, that's it. So within that time, he wasn't giving me this is where you need to go and this is what you need to do. I was just still living my regular life, and things start to happen. So that's a nugget, because sometimes we, when God gives us a word, we forget about that word. It kind of reminded me of Abraham and Sarah. At the time, they were Abram and Sarai, when He promised Abraham that he was going to bore a son. They, like, him and Sarah was going to have a son, but they were old, and He kept that promise though. It was what, 10 years down the line? Over 10 years down the line when He gave them a son. And we just have to be mindful and be careful that our timing is not God's timing, y'all. But anyway, so you know how when people be like, oh, well, the universe matched up with this and this and that. Where they get that from? Like, who controls the universe? Okay, I don't understand why people say that, but that's not for me to try to figure out. But anyway, some people be like, you know, the universe lined up with here and boom, boom, boom. Whatever the case, I knew it was God. You can say what you want, you can say what you know what you feel, but I knew it was God. And it was like boom, boom, boom. So I gave my house a notice, I gave my job a notice, and everybody was receptive to that information. Of course, people were sad. I had scheduled some going away parties and all of the above, y'all. I was just not playing. I had looked up the moving trucks, everything, but people, of course, they did not believe me because I had already been down this Moreau. How you say it? I've been down the road before, right? I had already it's something in my eye, y'all. I had already packed up my house before to where I didn't end up moving. So of course people were not believing me, which was fine. And you know, it was what it was. But it was crazy how things started to happen once I opened my mouth. You remember when I said I was in Texas and I said that I was moving there. There was something that was in the power of me opening my mouth and saying that I was moving there. Now, I didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't even realize that I had opened my mouth and said that I was moving there. Like, it was all just so boom, boom, boom. But it was like I was in awe. I'm like, okay, boom. So let's see where I'm at. Okay, so I gave my notice, boom, and there I was. I had the going away party, and I showed people that I was really moving. My job was transferring, and all of the above. I had 30 days to boom get out and gone on my way, right? So up in that time, my homegirl ended up contacting me, and she was like, that a discrepancy had came up. They were not going to be able to close on their house because of Blase Skippy. I don't know. But they were not going to be able to close at that moment. But she was like, since I had already told you that you were able to come down here and take over my apartment, I'm still going to allow y'all to come. If you're wanting to come, you can stay with me and then, possibly get an apartment or whatever the case. Now, remind y'all, I have everything already scheduled for leaving. And now she tells me no house. Okay. So I had to go down to Texas and I had to fill out applications, house applications, and all of that, go see houses and all of that. And she took me, and I was very, 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 very thankful for that. But I was just filling out house applications, boom, 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 because at this time it's no turning back, y'all. I gave my notices in. So I'm like, I gotta go at this time, no matter what. So so I went down to Texas, boom, I gave all of my I had filled out all applications or whatever, and that was that. And then so my moving truck was already scheduled. I had already paid for it in all of the above. So I still decided to go because I'm like, at this point, I have no choice. I now I don't have a home back in my hometown, because once you give your notice, it's a wrap. They already looking for somebody to move in for that month, the next month, to fill your place. So it's pretty much a wrap, right? So I gotta go. And then too, my job too. Now I could have been like, no, well, I'm not going to transfer and I can keep my job. That could have happened. But at this time, I don't even have a house now, right? So I'm like, okay. I had to trust God. Remember, this is what God said that this was going to happen. This wasn't Santana doing. This is what God told me to do this. So, I had to party, whatever. Boom, got on the road, went to Texas. All of my stuff, my stuff, me and my kids. I packed up a little stuff that we can, feel comfortable with for weeks, a couple weeks. Some clothes, underwear, whatever. And all of the rest of my whole house was, because I didn't leave anything. I packed up my whole house with the moving company. They were going to travel with my things to Texas. So that happened. So I get down there, she allowed me to stay in her house as as she promised. Now I'm not used to staying with anybody, so it was definitely appreciated, but this was something that I did not want to do. So my goal was, once I got down there, I was going to get me a house. And nobody knew. My family didn't know that I didn't have a house. Nobody, my friends didn't know that I didn't have a house, because the last thing that they heard was that my homegirl was providing me with her house because she was buying a home. That's the last thing they heard. I didn't tell anybody anything, because at this point I'm like, I done came too far. I done got too excited. I done gave notices and all of the above. God told me to do this, so I know that this is something that I have to do. So by all means, I gotta do it. I gotta go, right? And so my family was just thinking that it was just so sweet and so simple for me, because I had a job that transferred and all of that, but they didn't know that I didn't even have a house. I didn't even have anywhere to really lay my head at, had she not offered her home to me. But I went anyway, because this is what God told me to do. And because how it aligned, I knew that it was divine. Okay. So couple weeks had passed, and still no house. Still no house. Nobody had called me. I'm like, oh Lord, I have to depend on God fully. I'm like, God, I start praying like, God, I know that you told me to move. I know that it was you. So at this moment, what's going on? What's going on? I'm here in an unfamiliar state. I don't have any family down here. I don't have any close friends down here. None of that. Yes, I knew my homegirl back from home. Her sister was my friend. But at the end of the day, it's like I'm in an unfamiliar state with just me and my babies. God, you gotta show up right now. I have a moving truck with my whole house that's on its way down to Texas, and I have no house. No house. So I continue to pray, and I continue to just stand on his word, and I continue to really just trust him. When I tell y'all that my faith went to a different level on that day. At that moment, at that time, going through that experience, my faith went through a different level. I had no choice but to trust God. None. I was already gone. What else was I going to do? I had no choice but to trust God. I didn't want to, do that again, as far as unpack my house and call up. Like, at this point, I have nowhere to go. Remember, I told y'all I had to move. There was nothing that can keep me back home at this point, because moving with somebody wasn't an option back home. So, and I knew, like I said, I wanted the newness. I wanted what God said that was mine. So, now I am still in Texas, have no house or whatever, and the moving truck was supposed to come within a couple of days. I think they said like 3 to 5 days. The moving truck hadn't came, and I'm like, okay, the moving truck is not gonna. Now, part of me got mad, because I'm like, y'all was supposed to be here 3 to 5 days, and y'all still not here. This was 2 weeks later, but it was all divine. Do you hear me? God delayed that moving truck because he knew that I didn't have a home to place my stuff in. He delayed the moving truck for me. And although that I got mad, and although that I got angry, because what I was going to have to do was put my stuff in the storage, but I was already dependent on putting my stuff in the storage. But God said, I got other plans. Baby girl, I got other plans, because I told you to move down here, and you trusted me, and you believed me, and I got plans to stop that moving truck, and I got plans to slow him up, because you are going to have a house by the time your stuff comes. Do you understand that next week? Now, remind y'all, it's 2 weeks down the line. My stuff still isn't here. 2 weeks down the line, a house called me in that same complex that my homegirl was living in and stated that I got the house. Called me that same week and told me that same 2 weeks after and told me that I had the house. God made me wait because he wanted to see, was I going to trust and believe him? It wasn't very uncomfortable. Yes, I don't like living with people. I don't like going by other people's rules and how their house work and operate and all of that. And I got 3 kids. I did not like it. It was very, very, very uncomfortable. But I knew that I had to trust God. When I tell y'all my faith went from here to here, baby, can't nobody tell me about my God in faith. Faith is the things that's hoped for, but the things that you're not able to see. You can't see faith. You can't see it happening. You can't see it. You just got to believe him. You got to believe him. Had I been a person that was wary, had I been a person that was not trusting God and and just gave up like, this ain't gonna work, I might as well stay here where I'm at. When I moved to Texas, y'all, my life changed forever. Forever. Do you understand? My life changed forever. And just like I said, he caused the moving truck to be delayed. Although that I was upset that moving truck was delayed, it all worked out for my good. It all worked out for my good. The moving truck didn't come to 2 weeks later. Guess what happened in those 2 weeks? I got a house. I was going to have to put my stuff in storage. Didn't even understand or know how I was going to get it back out of storage to put in the house that I was going to get. I didn't know anything. But all I knew is that I was trusting God at that time. I was trusting God at that time. God did not fail me. He made me trust him. He made me wait. It was uncomfortable. It was unbearable at times. I cried and like, God, why would you do this? Nobody knew. My family didn't know that I didn't have a house. Nobody knew that I moved without a house. They didn't know I was stepping all the way out there on faith. Literally. I had 3 young kids at the time. My oldest was 9 at the time. And I moved to an unknown state with me and my babies. Did not have a house. But everybody thought that I had a house. Because I was trusting on God. I didn't need to let everybody know what was going on between me and God. I didn't need to let everybody know that my homegirl house fell through. I didn't need to let everybody know that. The only thing that I needed to do is trust God. That faith, y'all. That faith. I never turned around on my faith ever since. I've been in Texas for 6 years, and it has been the best decision that I've ever made in my life. I say that to say this, y'all. Faith moves God. It moves God. This is my testimony of faith and how my faith grew. This was a journey that I will never forget. But I promise you, when I look back, it was all worth it. My life changed forever. I'm a new person because of it. And I'm so very thankful. So very thankful. This is my testimony, y'all. For those that know me, y'all know that I moved to Texas, but y'all didn't know my story. This is my story. Late nights, crying nights, frustrated nights, wanted to give up, wanted to go back home, but didn't understand how I was going to do it, what I was going to do. Feeling like God wasn't listening to me anymore. But I knew that I had to trust him. Because I knew that he did not bring me this far just to bring me this far and just leave. I knew that. So I had to trust him. I had to trust him. I hope that this has encouraged somebody, anybody. Faith moves God. You may have to cry. You may have to go in a season of feeling like that God isn't hearing you. You may have to go through a season to where you have to really push in and really trust him. And it may be scary and it may be frightening and it may be feeling like that there's nothing happening. But I promise y'all, faith moves God. Keep your faith. Keep your faith. The big, huge things happen in faith. In Hebrews, you can read a whole, I want to say Hebrews 11. You can read all of the faith stories. And that's not even all of them, but you can read a lot of faith stories up in there. Faith moves God. This is my testimony, ladies and gentlemen, kings and queens. I hope this has touched one person and encouraged y'all to keep the faith and keep moving. I love y'all and God loves you more. Have a fantastic rest of your day.